Car culture has long been a staple of the West Coast, but one circuit has built its legend over the years to become one of the most famous along the California coast. Prepare to tackle Laguna Seca as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 14 Sport Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ron Mons. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. We're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. And apologies, I misspoke. It is the challenge class, but regardless, it's going to be the last one, Ron, here in our schedule for Laguna Seca.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore this track, even though I'm from pretty much the complete opposite side of the country. I've never been to this track myself. It is still an absolute classic in the world of American motorsports. It's been in this configuration ever since the mid-90s, has hosted some absolutely fantastic events I usually associate with IndyCar, but in runs here as well, along with a whole litany of other sports car racing. The SCCA runs events here as well. Laguna Seca, an awesome racetrack, good for sports cars too. So I have a feeling this fourth round of the championship going to be a darn good way to ring in the second half of this season.
I agree. And as we take a look at the championship, Ed Trippett is up on top. DiVincenzo, though, could be knocking on the door, tied there with De Silva. I have to remember that De Silva has two third places, DiVincenzo, with a second place at Watkins Glen, kind of tripped up, unfortunately, at Indianapolis, but that counted as the drop week. From there, single 10 points back to Jeffrey Block, who opened things up with a win at the start of the season, but hasn't seemed to be able to follow up that good performance with Johan Nye, another 10 points back behind him. So you can see those top five still very closely matched, really second through fifth, I should say. Tie between Kaplan and Markuson, and then Galais and Carmichael as well at the bottom of our top 10. So it's somewhat early in the morning, so the race conditions are a little bit cooler than what we experienced last time out at about 66 degrees Fahrenheit rather, on the track surface itself. And it looks like Todd Goldberg right now holds our provisional pole position.
Yeah, so looking a little bit spread out here in qualifying at the moment. Still 3 minutes left for the drivers to set some more representative lap times, and there is Anthony DiVincenzo jumping up to second. We'll note about the pole positions that we've had thus far this season, have had 3 different pole sitters up to this point in the championship. Looking at the previous rounds that we have had up to this point, Les Carmichael was able to grab the pole at Spa. Antonio De Silva was able to get it at Watkins Glen. Last time out, Indianapolis, Vernon Messer led the field to green. We'll see if we can have a repeat pole sitter. Les Carmichael currently slotted in third, or whether or not we're going to continue on that streak with somebody else making it 4 different pole sitters in the first 4 races of this season.
That's a good point. And right now, Todd Goldberg does hold a healthy margin. It is nearly 9/10 of a second right now between P1 and P2. And DiVincenzo looks like he has already completed his 3 laps, so he won't be able to respond. Everybody has set a time up to this point, but we'll see if anybody can get any closer as we're watching Patrick Aguirre, his first time lap at a 28.7. Oh, and that one might not count as he went a little wide out of 6.
Yeah, and turn 6 really going to be a trouble spot for these racers all throughout the night. That medium speed turn with that killer curb on the inside and no real runoff area to speak of. It's pretty much just racetrack, painted line, curb, gravel that will slow you down as if you just ran through a brick wall. Turn 6 may be going to be the trickiest section of this track all throughout tonight. It's usually the spot that catches me out the most when I'm running around here, at least.
It's a difficult one. There's a lot of tricky corners around here, if we're honest. As we saw last night, many drivers off in many different places. Looks like, yep, that last lap did not count for Patrick unfortunately. Seeing if anybody else does have a lap left from here. And it doesn't look like it. I think everybody who is able to set a lap has done so, and only a minute left. So looks like that is it for qualifying for our 20 drivers that have set a time here for the challenge class. But Todd Goldberg, wow, if this lap time is any sign of things, Ron, then it's going to be difficult for anybody to keep up with him.
Yeah, that's a darn good lap time for the driver of that number 99 car. And this isn't exactly an unknown quantity of a racetrack, unlike Aragon for the next round of the season. Here at Laguna Seca, really everybody on iRacing has driven around this track at some point. And if you're an American racing fan, you know about this track for sure. And you've probably seen a race here, whether it be IMSA, IndyCar, or any other sports car racing that may go on around here. Just racing, period. I mean, this track is a staple of auto racing in California and the entire nation for that matter. It is a fantastic racetrack, this. So it's not exactly an unknown quantity. So to pull out a gap like that in qualifying is truly impressive.
Indeed. And yeah, my first experience, I think, that I can remember is the IndyCar Racing 2 intro where they had this and the legendary Paul Page announcing its introduction over top of the video of the cars circulating around. But enough of the reminiscing of the roots of iRacing here with Papyrus. It's time to get back to the present and see how the drivers do in today's race. But I believe first up, we're going to be checking out the pole lap for our pole sitter to see how he managed to get such a big gap over everybody. Goldberg obviously holding a little bit of a secret over his competitors somewhere around this circuit that manages to get him well far away. And here we go. Looks like we've got his perspective. Ron, you want to talk us around?
Yeah, let's do that as we ride on board with your pole sitter, heading his way, cresting over the hill through turn 1 into the Andretti hairpin of turn number 2. Now, this corner, despite the fact that it is another infamous one from this racetrack, hasn't been around for the entire existence of this circuit. In fact, for the longest time, it cut all the way down into turn number 5. This section here of 3 and 4 was added in back in 1987 to try and poach Formula 1 here. Never happened, but we have still got a darn good racetrack here. Heading off through 3 and 4, though, very challenging medium speed corners. You got to pay attention to those red inside sausage curbs. I usually call them the overcooked sausage because much like an overcooked sausage, you can chip your teeth on the both of them. Now off through turn number 5. Another challenging turn around this racetrack. There's no turn around this racetrack that is similar to another, and you see it all through 5 and 6. 5 a little bit on the tighter end, 6 a bit more open. Probably one of the higher end medium speed corners here. We talked about the challenging qualifying. Now off into the notorious corkscrew. I say notorious for good and bad reasons. That section of the racetrack super difficult with a weight transfer and the massive drop as you head your way through there, but also a great spot to get a move done. Just X Alsonardi now off through turn number 10. Second to last corner around this racetrack. Another medium speed bend. You got a little bit of banking and some assistance to help you out through there. Now into a really tricky final corner, turn number 11. The closest thing you've got to a hairpin outside of the hairpin around this racetrack. Maybe a good overtaking opportunity throughout this race as well. That right there is a quick pace lap here at Laguna Seca, clocking at just 2.25 miles and 11 turns in all. This is probably going to be one of the shortest racetracks that we visit all season long here, Joe.
Absolutely, yeah. It is not terribly long, under a minute and a half around here, but the drivers will have to pay attention to the fuel as they will need to try and use that to their advantage, as we saw last night. And some drivers maybe just taking a little bit too long. I guess we've got our grid done, so why don't we take a quick look over at how things will start for our race today, because certainly has proved difficult to overtake at times as well around here. So starting position could wind up being just very key for our drivers. Otherwise, you'll need to maybe use a bit of that pit stop strategy I was just talking about to find your way up to the front of the field here for this race. About a minute and a half left to go as we check out Thomas Doherty here, and he's set himself a time obviously for the race. Let me double check to see what his result was in the qualifying. Looks like 11th is where he's going to be starting here today with Andy McCune out there as well. Just getting the last little bit of practice. About a minute left before the drivers are sent off to the race itself. And hopefully you've got that practice in here, Ron, because my goodness, this place will catch you out even with the slightest bit of relaxing.
Yeah, bring up a fantastic point there, Joe. Despite the fact this track is one that everybody, frankly, has experience running around in some form of machinery, can be very, very tough to try and just keep it on the road. Experience can be a good thing, but maybe a little bit of overconfidence can come back to bite these racers too.
There you go. There's our starting grid. Todd Goldberg, as we said, up at the top by quite a wide margin over DiVincenzo, who will start in second. Les Carmichael will be P3. And Galais starts fourth today. It's Adam Holland in the fifth position. He'll have Johan Nye flanking him in the top six. You've got Chris Drankovic, in the seventh spot. Edward Trippett will be starting from eighth, our championship leader, a little bit far down for him. Antonio De Silva will be ninth, with Keith Markison rounding out your top 10 starters. Then in row six, it is Thomas Doherty to the inside and Jonathan Sesportis on the outside. John Kaplan then starts in lucky number 13 with Dave Jones starting in 14th. Then in the next row, you've got David Sondry in 15th and Ben Whitehurst in 16th. Patrick Aguera will start 17th and Lisa Eskridge in P18. Last two cars on the grid sees Jack Stevenson followed by Andrew McCune. And as we said, all 20 drivers did manage to set a time out there. Ron, is there a particular spot you're watching thinking drivers probably have their best opportunity to make those difficult passes?
Oh, that's a good question that you raised there. It may be a potentially controversial opinion here. I'm going to say heading off into turn number 3, because as much as you can try and go side by side heading off into turn number 2, especially on lap 1, we're probably going to see the whole field go side by side through there, frankly. I feel like turn 3 is going to be the main spot to get the move done, because such a heavy braking zone off into 2 can lead to a little bit of argy-bargy action, maybe some contact. I think turn 3 is really the opportunity to pounce, as well as turn 11. I mentioned it in the track guide, that hairpin, one of the heavier braking zones around this racetrack. If anyone goes for a move off into the corkscrew, though, I will be thoroughly flabbergasted here tonight.
All right, fans, watch out for that third corner then just after Andretti. See if anybody picks up on that and is able to take advantage as we have a short pace lap. And then we will be sent off. Hopefully we don't have a penalty for P2 like we had for last night. And I'm sure DiVincenzo, if he's been watching that, will be very careful not to try to get too good of a jump over Goldberg, but he does not want to let him get away. That is for sure, as we wait patiently for the call from the flag stand. And there it is. Green flag is out. This time I'm not seeing any black flags up at the front of the field. Les Carmichael did get a good start. Could try and challenge down into Andretti. Let's see if he dives in, but no, very patient into this hairpin at turn 2. Everybody behind as well. It looks like Ron is playing this nice and safe.
Yeah, everybody yielding the warning, heading off into that first heavy braking zone. Maybe so inviting to go for a move, but with the cold track conditions, the cold tires on these race cars, and nobody really in a groove, you gotta take it easy heading off through the first few corners at the start of this race. Todd Goldberg, though, looking to drop the hammer and try and pull away from everybody else. Certainly try and pull away from Anthony DiVincenzo right behind in that number 420 car. DiVincenzo looking to win for the first time this season after coming up oh so close in some of the previous rounds. Keep an eye on him to maybe be a thorn in the side to Goldberg throughout tonight.
He's going to do his best to keep him honest, that's for sure. Although he's already about a second behind him as it sits right now. As we watch Anthony plunge down the hill, continuing to chase. He still has Les Carmichael in behind him. Not too much closer, honestly. Top 3 kind of spread it out, and it got single file very quickly all throughout the field, frankly.
I know this is an old school track in the sense that you don't have a whole lot of asphalt runoff area, a little bit more in real life after a repave that was done here a couple of years ago. But on this scan on iRacing, you still got the dirt, you've still got the gravel, not a lot of asphalt shoulders around here, so these drivers still have to take it a little bit easy, make sure the mistakes don't creep up. Unfortunately for David Sauntry, I believe a mistake has befallen him. The 511 car dropping down to the back of the pack as we take a look to see what happened to him. Heading off through turn number 9 into 10 right now. I talked about this section maybe being a little bit of a trouble spot as he got some very quick weight transfers heading off through there, but no, the braking zone down to turn number 11, went for a dive, contact being made. That's a worry about turn 11. That braking zone really comes out of nowhere into that somewhat blind final corner.
Yeah, just got tipped the rest of the way around, and that has sent him back to last on the field at this stage. He's just about caught up with McCune, so he should get that spot back. I do love what the 420 has done with the classic Rexy livery on here. Kind of a nice spooky homage to Halloween next week.
See, I would start singing Halloween songs, but I do not want everybody tuning into this broadcast ears to bleed, so I will hold off on that point and say something may have just happened with Ed Trippett. He's dropping down the running order now in 12th, make that 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. He's dropping back big time. The driver who actually won last time out at Indianapolis, proving that momentum only means so much here in this championship. He's dropping down now to 18th, making down some more spots here. Not sure what happened to the driver that took before. Whatever it is, it wasn't very good.
I think it was the infamous corkscrew, unfortunately, that caught him out. So, yeah, he falls all the way to P18. Well, the 144 a little bit farther back, also sporting the the modified Rexy livery here on that car. So two of them within the top 5. Make no bones about it. They're going to try and make a hassle for that podium. The only one sits on it right now. Still very early stages, only in lap 3. But and I'm going to knock on wood here, Ron, but this feels like actually a relatively calm start compared to last night.
Oh, it is certainly very, very calm. I mean, when we think about the races that we've had up to this point here in the PCA Challenge class, Spa, first race of the season, very challenging track with a whole lot of elevation change. We were expecting a little bit of drama in that race, and we most certainly got it. Watkins Glen, a bit of a draft fest on that new version of Watkins Glen as well, shortly after the season change here on iRacing to move off to season 4 of 2025. Then Indianapolis last time out, which was pretty much just a sauna for these racers to drive around. This, I feel like, is the first race where these competitors have gotten the opportunity to say, okay, it may be a little bit cool in terms of the track, and this may be a bit of an old school challenge, but it's still going to be a bit preferable compared to some of the other races that we've had up to this point.
Absolutely. On board with Nye here, sitting in 6th position. And not quite close enough to do anything at this stage. They do seem a little bit stuck, although look at him coming off the corner. He gets close to Holland, just can't seem to execute anything. Maybe he got a bit balked by the black and white 144 there briefly. So will we see some drivers try to get tricky with the strategy out there? But I doubt that we will see the leader in anytime soon. He has no need to pit early. He is almost 5 seconds up the road in 4 laps.
Yeah, it's a very good drive from Todd Goldberg, but I'm not going to count his chickens before they hatch. Based off what we've seen thus far this season, starting from the pole usually means that something bad's going to happen to you between now and the checkered flag. We look at the pole sitters and race winners that we've had up to this point in the season. Round 1 at Spa, Les Carmichael started from the pole. Things went a little bit sour for him in the race, and Jeffrey Block walked away with the victory. Watkins Glen, Antonio De Silva was at the front at the start, was leading for a decent amount. Then some drama heading into the pits caused him to lose out on the race lead, picked up a penalty if my memory serves me correctly, and Todd Goldberg was actually able to get that win at that race at Watkins Glen a couple of weeks ago. And then Indianapolis for the last round of the championship 2 weeks before tonight. Vernon Messer was your pole sitter, Ed Trippett was your winner. Haven't seen anybody convert a pole into a victory thus far this season here in the PCA Challenge class. Maybe though, with the calmness, the relative calmness that we have seen at the start of this race here at Laguna Seca, tonight may be the night that trend gets fully bucked.
And Todd would be the first one to win twice as well. And in both times of trying, he was not here for both Indianapolis and for Spa. So 100% record won't do his reputation any harm out here. Well, looks like that battle for the fifth position just hotting up a little bit, although Ben Whitehurst farther back slips off the circuit in what looks like the entry down into the corkscrew, and then eventually finds his way back on. Thomas Doherty in a nice little fight with Kaplan. Oh, but it looks like he is slow off the corner, and Kaplan goes right back by him.
Yeah, so as they headed their way down, I guess probably the correct technical terminology would be heading up the right haul straightaway between turn number 6 and the corkscrew. Good spot to get a move done. These cars, not exactly the strongest drafters in the world, but if you have a moment, you can most certainly capitalize on your competitors, as that was a moment for Doherty as he headed his way off through turn number 5. Half spin there, loses it, and gets it back up and rolling as Ben Whitehurst at a moment as well. Let's see the slide for him coming at turn number 4. Light contact in the wall, nothing too bad there, as we jump back to the live action. This battle for third between Les Carmichael and Adam Holland.
Wow, Holland is, I think, moved up. He was in 5th place. Not sure. I guess that must have been the car that we just saw having that half spin down through turn 4 right here that gave him that one position, and he is wasting no time, but he's brought along Johan Nye. Chris Drankovic is with him. Robert Galais, though, goes deep into the final corner, way deep. He is way out into the gravel, eventually finding his way back, but loses many track positions.
Yeah, once again, that final corner proving to be a sneaky pick of being an odd one and a challenging one for these competitors. I mean, you think about that turn compared to every other turn around this racetrack. As you can see, Adam Holland with a bit of a wiggle, cresting the hill through the corkscrew. But no, that final corner, yeah, look at the rest of the track. All the other turns have some elevation change, maybe a little bit of camber to help it out, maybe a little bit of negative camber to bowl it out towards the outside gravel trap. This final turn, though, pretty much flat as a pancake, which frankly, around a racetrack like this, seeing any part that is that flat feels a little bit unnerving, both to drive around and to see commentating race. But that final turn has already claimed some drivers thus far, and we are still far away from the end of this race.
A little bit wide, but trying to cut back. Carmichael attempts to get the run off the corner. Adam Holland still sticks with him, just can't seem to get close enough to do anything. Does look like Les has maybe recovered a little bit here. So he has got himself a gap of about half a second now over that 144 after 10 minutes gone here in this race. You can see the train forming just a bit behind him, being brought up by Antonio De Silva at this stage, who, like I said, sits third with 2 third places to his name. He's in 7th right now. He's going to have to work a little harder than that if he wants to continue that trend.
And now, speaking of the driver, the number 24 car of Antonio De Silva, as you just said, Joe, but a pretty good season for him up to this point, shown some good pace. Of course, that near win at Watkins Glen still probably going to stick out, but he has put on some amazing drives, has shown some good pace. I'm going to throw this question to you as to whether or not in the remaining rounds that we've got of this season, because the halfway mark of this race will be the halfway mark of this season here in the PCA. This is going to be the storyline that we keep tabs on between now and that season finale at VIR later on this year, whether or not Antonio De Silva can break through between now and the end to get that elusive win. I personally think he could do it. What about you, Joe?
Oh, I think so. I definitely think it's possible. Clearly, the consistency is there, and we've seen at some races, keeping it on the island pays great dividends. So maybe eventually he'll find himself inheriting that lead, even if he doesn't have the outright pace. This is John Kaplan now that we're watching them coming into turn 3, currently leading Keith Markison just outside of the top 10 behind him. But John's been having a good race. He's up 3 from where he started, so not looking too shabby at this stage, just continuing to plug away.
Continuing to run consistent, just stay out there, keep it on the island, and run strong. I think that's the main agenda for everybody up and down the grid, as much as we have had some very, very familiar tracks up to this point in the season. Laguna Seca may be a bit on the farther end of that. We've probably got the least hospitable conditions up to this point in the championship. Track conditions rather cool, quite nice as we are officially in the fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. So Laguna Seca, even out there in California, where I feel like in the summer I could step out in the California sun and I'd probably boil within 45 seconds. It's looking quite nice out there on the racetrack. So these tires probably feeling good, these drivers feeling good. You're in that right sweet spot of the track being just cool enough whereby overheating tires may be a bit less of a worry than it has been in previous rounds. And plus you could just get into a good swing of things. This is always, back in my karting days, I always loved days like this where it was just cool enough whereby you could walk around in shorts and t-shirts without really freezing. But at the same time, you weren't going to boil as soon as you put that fire suit on.
Yeah, it's a stark difference from what we had at Indianapolis, with a track that was practically on fire at times, as we see Lisa Eskridge ahead of Ed Trippett after Ed's mistake a little bit earlier on. He's well down from where he started. No driver has pitted yet, though, not even to take repairs or a spare car. So that's a good sign out here. He's definitely getting quite a bit of a run on Lisa, who's not exactly pulling completely over, but we're checking back in with our leaders because Les Carmichael is still playing defense on this third place. Look at how close Adam Holland, Nye, Drankovic remain after many laps now.
And a lot of talent in this train of cars, very, very close together out there on the racetrack, battling for some good spots. Not only is it good to just be up towards the front in the race, you also want to worry about the point situation as we get farther along into this championship here in the PCA. With only 7 races, every single race has a whole lot of importance to it. So you got to strike while the iron is hot, get those good results when you can. And all of these racers that you see in this battle certainly proving their pace here in this race for sure, and proving why they've been some of the top racers up to this point in the championship. Carmichael, the pole sitter in the opening round at Spa. Johan Nye, he's put in some good results as well in that 141 machine. Antonio Da Silva, we mentioned him a little bit earlier on, nearly won the race at Watkins Glen. Started from that race from the pole, really looking to see what he can do throughout the rest of this championship. Whether or not consistency will be the key for him, or if he's going to try and break through and get that victory. But even you look at the likes of the drivers that I haven't mentioned in the form of Adam Holland and Chris Drankovic, so very, very talented drivers in that train of 5.
Andy McCune going a little bit deep down at the corkscrew. I was going to say, don't try and turn around to rejoin. That was going to be a very unsafe rejoin if that's where he came back on the track. And you could see all the gravel he deposited as well, basically spit it directly across the entire circuit there. And thankfully, it looks like they're already kind of cleaning it up from running. But that's something that in the past, drivers wouldn't have had to worry about quite as much. That now, if you go off in iRacing, you can absolutely cause a pretty unsafe condition for your fellow competitors if you come back in a very important grip spot.
And heading all through the corkscrew, where even if you're running on the racing line, if you just miss the apex a little bit at the first part, you will end up in the gravel. And bring a little bit of it onto the racetrack, it's not going to be a very welcome sight. Whenever you're a driver running behind it, you just see a whole lot of what I like to call the corkscrew crunch heading off through there. Otherwise, you will likely crunch bits of your car off into the tire barrier shortly thereafter. Don't want to get that gravel all around the racetrack. I remember shortly after iRacing made that update, I believe it was at Brands Hatch, I was covering a Formula Ford race, and the entirety of turn number 2 was completely covered in gravel. It looked more like a rally special stage than anything else. Yeah, I gotta imagine the corkscrew may end up in a similar fashion as that's a spitting off the track from Holland.
I think he kept it out of the barrier just barely. Yeah, I don't see damage on the nose of the car, but look at what it has done to the damage of his position. He is down to 11th now, finally getting it going. And yeah, there is a whole bunch of that gravel we were just talking about. Thankfully, he was well off the racing line, the inside of the circuit, as he tries to shake some of it off, but maybe shook himself offline instead. He'll get back onto the circuit. 2 mistakes in 1 lap from the 144.
And you could see the gravel getting left behind as he rejoined the racetrack coming out of it. Was just going to say that the gravel situation may be bad yet again coming out of turn number 6 along with the corkscrew, but no, it was heading off through there. I wonder if he clipped the curb off through there, kept it out of the barriers, so well done to Adam Holland to woe it up that quickly to avoid breaking a bone off into that tire bundle. But either way, you slice it. Adam Holland losing out on a boatload of time as we see another moment. Actually, no, we now jump back to live action. I was gonna say, have we seen another moment for him going off the track? No, he's out there on the racetrack still, albeit a heck of a lot farther down than he once was. Turn 6, though, once again, a driver losing it off through there with that inside curb of doom.
Do not want to clobber that thing, that is for sure. And of course, the outside, if you've gone way too wide, it is easy to find it sending you spinning back across the track. In the meantime, battle for P11. Patrick Aguera is actually up 6 spots right now, so he's been steadily working his way forward. Oh, he's the latest, though, to fall victim to turn 6. He keeps it out of the wall, but there goes all of that good work, and eventually the 12 will return in what looks to be about 15th place now that Trippett goes by.
Yeah, and once again, as we saw that number 12 car rejoin the track, some more of that corkscrew crunch getting spilled onto the racing surface. That's going to make it even more treacherous through there, but a direct curb whack. I think both front wheels got up off the deck as he headed his way through there. As we'll take a look at a replay to see this moment from the number 12 car, heading his way down to turn number 6. Bang, there it goes. You'd be better off, frankly, replacing that inside curb with a landmine, because it would have roughly the same effect on these race cars.
Now, corkscrew crunch makes me think Laguna Seca needs to invest in creating their own breakfast cereal. But as the battle for P7 rages on, that's Doherty that we're back to once again. Galay's in behind, down from where he started. Remember, we saw him have that incident down at the final turn, the yellow with black polka dotted car. Only back to 11th at this stage, and still working to catch up to Doherty. He's got about 1 second up to that number 59.
This is still close quarter stuff between these two competitors running in some of the final spots inside the top 10. Goes back to a point that I raised a little bit earlier on in this broadcast as well, Joe, talking about the importance of just trying to piece together good results and make sure you can limit those mistakes and limit the bad days, as I think we nearly saw a day go bad for Chris Drankovich, as I saw 4 distinct skid marks skidding towards that curb, and also some smoke in the air as that was a driver stopped on the pit entry. Not sure what the deal was there for Andy McCune. Maybe some damage on that race car caused him to have to pull off a 3-point turn on the hairpin into the pit entry, but regardless, turn 9, seeing a driver slide off through there, proving once again that even though this has been the smoothest race that we've had up to this point in this season, considering we are going to be at the halfway mark in about 10.5 minutes time of this season, these racers want to minimize the bad runs, make sure you can get the max amount of points, and limit the mistakes here. This is a very unforgiving track, this, with gravel traps all around, those unforgiving concrete barriers, and even though the tire bundles may be a little bit softer in real life, on iRacing, they're still made out of solid tungsten. So you need to make sure you can limit the mistakes here. Got to worry about those championship points for drivers all up and down the field.
This is a good run from Doherty. Drankovich looking a little bit vulnerable, does not cover the inside. It's hard to pass here at the corkscrew, and because of that, Chris is going to hold on to that 6th position. Doherty back there in P7. Before this heats up once again, we are very thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Strong underbraking there by Doherty, but not strong enough. Drankovich is going to be covering the inside regardless down into turn 3. Obviously feeling a little bit vulnerable as Thomas continues to hound him. Looking down into turn 4, another place you don't typically get passes done. And again, they will stay as they were. But the 59 is starting to feel really full of beans here, starting to pressurize that 009.
Yeah, trying to layer on that pressure as much as he can as he goes side by side into turn number 6. Contact being made. They're both going to go off the track. And look at Robert Gale as he's got to blow the metaphorical doors off the both of these cars. As you can see, that's Drankowitz losing out on that spot. Gale is going to try and get a move done on Doherty sooner rather than later as that driver tries to get his bearing straight. Drankowitz yet again running off into the gravel. Side by side racing though into turn number 6. We've already seen that turn bite with drivers going single file side by side. There's only so much you can do going side by side around this racetrack. Turn 6, that is just a no-fly zone for side by side racing.
Got to give credit to Carmichael. I mean, he's had a lot of cars lined up behind him for quite some time, but one by one they've dropped off and he has held station. And yeah, as soon as I started to see that develop, I kind of felt like that was going to wind up exactly how it did. Delay's only getting one of them, though. You can see going by Drankovic as Doherty will hold on to P6, at least for now. We stay with this battle for third. That's Johan Nye and De Silva, who have outlasted their other competitors to be the only remaining in this train behind Coleman.
So as this battle for third continues to heat up, we gotta wonder exactly how long it is going to be until these racers finally go for a move on one another, and where exactly that move's gonna go from, whether it's gonna be Johan Nye going for a move on Les Carmichaels, he runs a little bit wide off through turn number 6, or whether or not De Silva is going to try and pounce on Nye first. There will be a battle here sooner rather than later. We just gotta wonder when it's gonna happen, exactly where it will happen to. These racers probably have those pit stops lined up in the not too far off future. Probably not going to be coming in this time. Bio will be a little bit until we see these racers make that run to come down pit lane, but we will know that they'll be eyeballing the pit stops very soon when they start to throw haymakers at each other and go for moves that you wouldn't really expect at any other point in the race.
The only car I'm seeing at this stage is Andrew McCune, who's been in for a longer stop than is typical, and that looks to be about 2 laps ago. So I think he is probably within the pit window on that one to get to the end. 22 seconds. So we were seeing last night anywhere between 9 and probably about 13 seconds is going to be your average pit stop time for most of the drivers. There is Andy running last on the field, the only driver a lap down as well at this stage, having been caught and passed by Goldberg. A little farther back, Markussen on the rear guard now at this stage. Adam Holland just behind him. Remember, Adam had that big mistake, that costly mistake earlier on. So many positions lost. And as he tries his best to keep up, Markussen's not going to allow any sort of opening down through turn 5, although he looks like he feels threatened. He's very defensive up into 6, and I don't think he needs to be. He's going to be slow off the corner because of that. Here comes Holland with the speed, but not enough of it as they crest the hill into the corkscrew.
He's still gonna go for it though. Contact being made wheel to wheel and door to door banging as they head their way off now at the corkscrew into turn 9, and that's gonna be the move from Holland. I was fully expecting him to just say, you know what, I'm not gonna risk it. We still have over half of this race left to go. I'm not gonna go for a move off into the corkscrew. He went for a move off into the corkscrew. Remember what I said right before we got this race up and rolling, how I'd be utterly flabbergasted if a racer went for a move like that? Well, my guests have now been flabbered.
Well, better gather those up pretty quickly, because I don't think we're done with some impressive moves here, if that's anything to go by. Behind them, my goodness, Markussen, Jones, Trippett, all very close coming through that hairpin. Could have a little bit of change position between them. Markussen has already lost 1 on this lap. Will he lose another?
Ooh, that is a good question that you raised there. This is such a rhythm and momentum-based track that is very much a distinct possibility. If you get put off your game a little bit, it can be a little bit unnerving just to try and get back into the swing of things. Oh, and that's going to help out his case. So Dave Jones runs a little bit wide all through turn number 5. Now I think Jones has to worry less so about going for a move on Markinson than Trippett going for a move on him. Let's see what Trippett does. If you can maximize the run heading off through turn number 6, you can really do yourself some favors. We just saw from Markinson last time around through that section. If you take a shallow entry and really sacrifice your run, you're going to be in for a world of trouble heading off through that right hole straightaway. It may be a very high-powered car that we run here in the PCA, but you still need a good amount of speed heading off through there, because even if it's a couple of mile-an-hour difference, that right hole straightaway is just long enough, and turn 6 is just consequential enough, whereby that couple of mile-an-hour difference could make a big difference in terms of spots.
It does look like Markinson is responding now as he is pulling away from that duo. Oh, and we had a change for position. Carmichael is no longer in third. Johan Nye is also, well, no, he has gotten past, it looks like. And De Silva right behind him, not quite close enough to try and pick it up. So something happened there to suddenly kick things off after it looked like Les Carmichael just could not be shaken from that position.
I gotta wonder whether or not that swap of spots was just down to the fact that he got put back in P4 and really just wasn't able to get his bearings right afterwards. He's now having to worry about dirty air for the first time in this race, which we haven't really talked about too much in the previous rounds here, but this is probably the tightest and twistiest racetrack that we have all season long, as that was a moment where Carmichael lost it, runs wide off through turn number 3, got chewed up and spat out by Johan Nye heading off into turn number 4, and very lucky that Antonio De Silva was able to keep it on the racetrack, as we got a pit stop from Darty.
Yeah, Nye did a good job avoiding getting run into by Carmichael, it looked like, who rejoined right in front of that car. In the meantime, it looks like I think that's McCune that they are going to lap, and behind them, De Silva slips up. Galais is going to pick up the pieces. You can see the yellow car overtaking the green one in the background, and there he is. Galais now back to P5. And I think, did you mention Doherty had pitted in?
Yes, he is. He is still down in the pits right now. 22 seconds nearly down in the pit stall. That's a little bit on the long end, I believe, for Thomas Doherty. We'll have to see how he shakes out. He's going to be exiting out down in P15 as we see the moment from Antonio De Silva. I think the mistakes have started to pile up on that number 24 car, as we saw the moment not too long ago for Les Carmichael. That was nearly 2 cars going off the racetrack in the span of about 2 seconds, as De Silva nearly went wide off through turn number 4 into that outside gravel trap. He does go off the racetrack with that half spin off through turn number 2. De Silva trying to settle back into a groove as we get closer and closer to the halfway mark.
Exactly. And this is all happening behind Goldberg and DiVincenzo up in front of them. Goldberg with a 17, almost 18-second lead at this stage. And Anthony's not doing too bad either. He's got about 5.5 seconds over Johan Nye, so he's pretty comfortable at this point. And there he is right now, the 420 machine. Unfortunately, has long since lost sight of our leader, as I mentioned, with the gap between he and Goldberg, but he doesn't seem too phased as we check in with the webcam of Anthony DiVincenzo. Neither of our leaders have pitted yet. Only Doherty and McCune have come in, both of them with mysteriously long stops.
Yeah, so I gotta wonder what the deal was there, whether or not these racers forgot to click off their tires. Not gonna be seeing anybody come in for tires in this race, frankly, even though this track super twisty, super technical, really the longest flat out blast they'd have on the entirety of the racetrack is a start finish straightaway, which compared to the races that we've already had up to this point of the season, compared to Watkins Glen, Spa, and Indianapolis, That start finish straightaway pretty much one to other bits of the track, not as disproportionately long as the other flat out blasts that we've had. So despite the fact this race is probably the twistiest one that we've been at thus far this season, the very cool track and ambient temperatures mean that these tires probably not even breaking a sweat, frankly, unless you are sliding off through every single corner, which frankly I feel like you have bigger issues on your hands at that point. If the car feels like the wheels are bolted on sideways, it very well may be. I wonder if there were some mistakes with drivers potentially not clicking off the tires. I mean, it is a matter of pixels that you can miss out if you just click the wrong button, click something a little bit out of the box, and you can really sacrifice your race as a result of all that. Very easy mistake to make as you're running around this non-stop racetrack.
Another mistake for Sancho. Remember, we saw him have that problem. I think it was in the corkscrew very early. Lost a ton of positions. Where is he right now? 17th, it looks like, and already a lap down without having taken his pit stop yet. Aguero was the latest. He was quicker, but not by much. 18 seconds again. I'm kind of with you. I feel like some drivers maybe accidentally leaving the tires ticked on. And was that Nye that just had that huge off? No, that may have been Carmichael, I think, that just drifted off into the dirt there coming out of turn 6, which allows Galais and De Silva to catch up to him.
Yeah, so Les Carmichael, ever since he lost out on that P3 spot, just hasn't been able to settle back into the right groove as he ran wide off through turn number 6. I feel like by the end of this race, there's going to be more racers that have had moments of slight terror off through turn number 6 than racers who haven't in this 20-car field. But Carmichael, the mistakes starting to pile on as we see that moment. It looked like it wasn't even a matter of him hitting the curb and firing him off that way. It looked like he just went into that turn way too quick and ran off into the dirt on an odd moment for the driver of the 912 car.
Yeah, he was sticking close to Nye pretty well as well. Just didn't seem all that far back. That or he'd regained some time, but has given it all away. Whatever the case, Galais is now all over that rear wing. And in fact, he's got a good shot here coming into turn 4, takes a big dive to the inside. Way too shallow for that. That gives a chance for De Silva potentially. No, amazingly. Galais gets a decent run off the corner. Still De Silva takes a bit of a look down into 5. No dice.
I want to shout out Robert Galais at this point in that 809 car. This has been a pretty rousing drive for him up to this point in the race. Currently running in P5. We'll have to see what he can do between now and the very end, as that's Ben Whitehurst with a similar moment to what he had out of turn number 4. This time coming out of turn 11. No, boy, that could have ended in disaster as he tries to get that car spun back around in the right direction. But a half spin coming out of it, trying to find any way in the book to get that race car turned around, and was basically a narrow alleyway of a start-finish straightaway. It feels like you're running on a street course as you head your way off through there, but no, this is a purpose-built racetrack. Very tight confines as you head your way through there. But a similar moment to what we saw for him coming out of turn number 4 earlier on. This time coming out of turn number 11. Unfortunate moment there, and bringing more gravel onto the racetrack as a result.
Yeah, he's got to be careful, though. He went backwards for quite a bit. You can get disqualified if you go too far backwards on the track. Generally frowned upon both in the sim and in real life. But Les Carmichael, as we turn our attention back to 4th place, started from 3rd, so only one position lost, really, for him. And Lisa Eskridge, unfortunately, was trying so hard to stay out of the side of her competitor. Not sure who that is quite she ran into, but they eventually went off the track. Looks like Stevenson, I think? Jack Stevenson? Yes, so the 116. Just barely clipped.
Yeah, turn 5, claiming another victim. As much as we have given a lot of attention to likes of turn 11 and turn 6, turn 5, another corner that I feel like I can never get right in my time running around this racetrack. It feels like I either just miss the turn and end up in the gravel, or I go a little bit too slow through there, and I think, okay, now I can carry the speed through, and then the next lap is when I usually end up in the gravel because I carry too much speed in there. Turn 5, a very odd corner in its own sense. A little bit more than 90 degrees, probably works out to be about 120. 20. Pretty wide radius through there as well. So it feels like everything and nothing at the same time. It feels very flat, but with a lot of elevation change. It feels very wide and very narrow. There are so many feelings that you have heading all through that corner of the track that you don't really know what to do, at least from my personal experience running off to turn 5 here.
Turn our attention back to Glaze once again. Carmichael's still in front of him. You could see they are pushing the limits of the track, just kicking up a little bit of dirt on the exit of turn 3. 809, still one down from where he started as he was P4 on the grid. Oh, back to Marcuson. Seems like every time we turn around, he's involved in some sort of battle. Ed Trippett on a recovery drive. He's back to 12th at this stage. Could be to 11th if he could find his way past that purple and black machine just in front of him. And he tries to size him up out of 4, but does not get the exit he needs. Marcuson holds on for now.
A black flag, unfortunately, for the number 75 car of Lisa Eskridge. She's currently down in P15 at the present moment, was involved in that incident with herself and Jack Stevenson a few moments ago, heading off through this exact same part of the racetrack. She's going to have to come in and serve that between now and the very end. Heartbreaking stuff for her in that number 75 machine. But this battle for 11th with these two cars who have had very wild nights in their own regard. I don't think Keith Marcuson and Ed Trippett have had that calm, relaxing Thursday night cruise here at Laguna Seca that they're maybe thinking of having.
And credit to the challenge class. That was the first black flag that's been handed out all race long. Unfortunate that it wound up being Lisa Eskridge for that contact that we saw with Stevenson. But glad that it's been so rare up to this point. In fact, I think that was Stevenson that we saw kind of pull off to the side and allow those drivers through as he's taken his pit stop and has since returned. Meanwhile, back to this battle for P4. Oh, that was way too shallow coming up into turn 5. Galais knows it. He eases past on the corner exit. De Silva could maybe get him before turn 6. They're going to swipe doors, and he's going to be able to make it through 2 positions and 1 straight from Carmichael.
So things in this race going wild and topsy-turvy for Kevin Carlisle. We were expecting it to be a smooth day of racing for him. He's now down in P6 after he was running in P3 for such a long time in this race. That is going to be a bit unfortunate for him, but still a lot of time left to go here. Not a lot compared to the grand scheme of things in this race, but still 22 minutes left on the board. Plenty of time for him to get these moves done. We have to worry about those pit stops coming up in the not too far off future as well. I've already seen a smattering of racers make that call to come down pit lane, but expecting pretty much everybody else to make that call probably within the next 10 minutes here. That's usually when we see a vast majority of the racers coming down pit lane. With how things have been going, I wonder if Les Carmichael is going to decide to buck the trend and come down pit lane a little bit earlier just to throw something at the wall and try and stop the bleeding, as he's now going to be feeling some pressure from the 009, Chris Drankovitz, right behind.
And worth noting, I just was looking at the lap times. Johan Nye has been reeling in DiVincenzo for second, so that's also up for grabs a little bit here. We still got a third of the race left to go, so he could catch and maybe pass him, but passing is always easier said than done around here as we're checking back in with Goldberg now. Current gap 21 seconds now over the next nearest car after 27 laps. This has been a shellacking by that number 99 on everybody else out there, and looks as calm as you like. I don't think we've seen a single mistake when we've checked in.
See, I'm not going to mention the mistakes thing because knowing my luck, I would probably jinx him and he would end up striking a wall sooner rather than later. But it has been a very good night for Tom Goldberg in that number 99 machine. Let's see if he can complete off the drive. Has to worry about those pit stops, and a sort of black flag that he picks up through there would be a big detriment. And the black flags, I feel like, are rather easy to pick up, especially with that pit exit. You can see the very narrow alleyway that these competitors have to drive down as they exit the pits and rejoin the racetrack on the exit at turn number 2. Joe, I'm not sure how often you have ever picked up a black flag, either in a test session, in a practice session, qualifying race, whatever it may be, just trying to exit the pits here at Laguna Seca. I know it's happened to me a decent amount. I've seen plenty of other racers pick up black flags through there. This is probably one of the more tricky pit exits that we have from this season.
both the entry and exit do definitely require quite a bit of practice to get right. That's for sure. Especially if you're pushing and really taking it up to the edge and maximizing that. So 809 here has maximized that recovery back to where at least he started. We'll cover that. Oh, as we had a car in the background, Keith Marcuson. Oh, no. It looked like he was actually having a pretty good day there for a little while, and now it's unraveled a bit. He falls behind Trippett, and I think that's the only spot it looks like he'll lose. So Trippett up to 11th with that mistake from the 076, and this is how it happens. It looks like maybe it could have hit that inside curb, but whatever the case, the rear came around and off he went. Well, while he recovers, we do want to take a quick mention of Princess Cruises because they are the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Down to less than 20 minutes left to go. And I think actually off screen on my end, I did see Goldberg have a little bit of a mistake coming down to the corkscrew this time. So he's not been perfect now at this stage, but don't think it matters, as that is a small mistake in comparison to the pace he has been showing here. Johan Nye, I said he was looking like he was closer to DiVincenzo, and Ron, that looks like a heck of a lot closer now.
Yeah, it is very, very close between these two competitors. You look at that gap fluctuating between 3/4 to a half a second, and sometimes even below it for that matter. Johan Nye slowly but surely reeling in DiVincenzo. This battle for second gonna heat up sooner rather than later. I think the only way these two get broken up is if we do have those pit stops, which are coming up in the not too far off future as well. So keep an eye on these racers, whether or not they're gonna come into the pits in unison or whether they're going to split away from each other and go on alternate strategies. But no matter how you shake it, been a good try for both these competitors. DiVincenzo taking a very intriguing line, blocking off that inside and giving himself a very shallow approach down into turn number 2. I think DiVincenzo certainly feeling the pressure in that 420 car right now. Johan Nye trying to apply it as best as he possibly can. Going to be very intriguing to see who's going to pounce first. Will it be DiVincenzo saying, you know what, nope, or will it be Johan Nye going for the move like he's looking for now?
Both of them going extremely shallow up into turn 5, not willing to give it away, but they'll get out the other side. And it does not give Johan Nye the run that he needs. He was 0.6 of a second quicker that last lap than Anthony. So the pace is there. I almost feel like he just needs to be patient and also maybe go back to the racing line a little bit into some of these corners when they both defend so hard.
Yeah, I think if these racers chase their tails a little bit too much, that could bring the likes of Robert Kalis and other drivers into the midst of this as well. You know, say that it is not exactly a insurmountable gap from Johan Nye to Robert Kalis. About 2 seconds, in fact, is the gap. I have seen gaps go down pretty big in all sorts of race cars. We've seen a decent amount of that thus far this PCA season. Drivers battling oh so hard and basically dragging each other down, pretty much attaching anchors at the waist and slowly but surely dipping down into that water. So these competitors, they need to take it a little bit easy. I mean, granted, we are getting to the end of this race, so taking it easy is probably not going to be in these racers' vernacular, but it is going to make the end of this be a little bit more stressful than the start of it for sure.
Ooh, I think we're getting scheduled stops. I see Sasportis in, and it looks like Whitehurst as well. And Stevenson and Sawtree have taken regular stops, so that looks a little bit more typical. 9 seconds and 8 seconds respectively. Let's see what these two come out as. I see Dave Jones as well. Had a 10-second pit stop. And, wow, 7.1 for Sasportis. He's got to be careful that he's got enough to make it to the end here.
Yeah, Yeah, keeping our fingers crossed that he's not going to have to hope that there's a gas station heading off between 5 and 6. I don't believe there's any racetrack in modern racing outside of, I think there's one in Poland, if my memory serves me correctly, where there's an actual gas station that they have to stop off at to try and get some fuel. I don't think there's any racetrack in America, though, that has a gas station in the middle of the one of the turns, so that is going to be a tough ask for him if he doesn't have enough gas. He'll maybe have to come in for a quick splash and dash. Certainly not ideal. We'll see if he can make it all the way through to the end with a decent amount of braking zones here. He could maybe do a little bit of fuel saving to make up that difference. Certainly not. I mean, it's not a bad call, I would say. Just throw something at the wall, see if it can stick. Wasn't running in a fantastic spot beforehand. If he can make that strategy work, may help his standing a bit in this race.
420 still dealing with a mirror full of Johan Nye coming down into turn 5 once again. Nye getting a little bit of a wider entry. Could that help his exit as well? Looks like not enough, even if he did. So he'll stay back in third once again as we check back in with Glaze, who has been unable to shake De Silva as well, I must say. So good job to Antonio, keeping the pressure on.
Yeah, these two have been super glued together for quite some time in this race. Antonio's going tit for tat with him on lap time. Robert Gales not able to shake him off, but still keeping that gap at a good enough distance whereby Gales, as much as he's got that car right behind him, he's not feeling the pressure all the time. Speaking of feeling some pressure, Thomas Doherty certainly feeling is. We jump to this battle for 11th with himself and Keith Markison, two drivers with some pretty wild races up to this point. Doherty, one of the first to come down pit lane well earlier on in this race. The driver, the number 59 Martini car, currently holding on to P11. Let's see if he can hold on to it still as he heads his way up the Rahal straightaway through turn number 6, getting a mighty run out of it, extending that gap to himself and the 076.
And did not change positions here. Yeah, he did. He made a mistake. He's no longer behind DiVincenzo. And it looks like De Silva and Glaze are both by somebody in the background as well, having a bit of a mistake there. Unfortunately, that may have been Carmichael, actually. Here's what happened to Nye, though, first. And, man, he's just deep.
Yeah, an easy mistake to make heading down to turn number 2. That downhill braking zone, very tough corner to try and get slowed down for. And fortunate for him, a mistake through there going to cost him dearly. Nye was putting together a very good drive, still holding on to a good spot. P5 at the moment. He can't necessarily complain about that, but he would prefer to be a little bit farther up the road where he was not too long ago. But hey, got 12 minutes left to go. He can maybe try and claw it back, and who knows what sort of fuel saving Johan Nye has been able to do, because all throughout this race he has had some sort of slipstream advantage, so he may have been able to get some good fuel numbers in this stint as Antonio De Silva peel off into pit lane.
He does, and Glaze will carry on. So will this help him? Antonio getting close to maybe getting another one of those third places that he keeps getting earlier on in this season. He did miss the first round, we should point out. Wasn't here for Spa, but has certainly looked very consistent since he has shown up. We got another car in pit lane, John Kaplan. Les Carmichael, he was the one that had a half spin coming out of turn 3 that we saw in the background. So he lost yet more positions after what was looking like such a solid race earlier on. Kaplan in and out, nice and smooth, 7.9 seconds. A lot of drivers, I guess, just not using as much fuel maybe as what we saw in the sport class last night, because the stops generally have been trending to being about a second quicker.
Yeah, so fascinating to see that, just the change of philosophies for these racers. I did bring up how the nature of this track could be a bit more conducive to doing a bit of fuel saving here. You do have a decent amount of braking zones, even if they're not the heaviest braking zones. You maybe do a little bit of lifting and coasting off through here. And as these racers have taken it easy throughout, they haven't really been pushing the issues too terribly hard. I mean, we've certainly seen our fair share of battles, don't get me wrong here, but these racers haven't been throwing haymakers at each other from the drop of the green all the way through to the fall of the checkered. And a very well composed drive for drivers up and down the field as we see these pit stops continuing. That's Robert Gales now making the call to come down pit lane in that yellow and black polka dot machine.
Yep, Galais there in the 809 has gotten himself to third for a brief while, but now will drop back. He was fighting with De Silva. Maybe this is a response to him. And the 24 is just coming down the main straight now. He's going to go by him easily. My goodness. So he has jumped him by a big margin. That must have been a slow in-lap for Robert.
Yeah, so that is not going to help out his case one bit. Galais dropping down into P7. Unfortunate moment for him. Music to the ears of Antonio De Silva as Galais now also got to be behind Lisa Eskridge. Eskridge currently one lap down. Slide down in P17 at the moment. So that's not a swapperoo of overall spots as I see Thomas Doherty slowly but surely hoving into view, keeping on that 59 car if Galais does make a mistake as Todd Goldberg comes down into the pits from the race lead with 9 minutes left on the clock.
There you go. The 99 looks for his pit stall and hits his marks nice and smooth. So hopefully this should be an easy in and out for him. DiVincenzo, the next one pitting in. Johan Nye will carry on, but such is the lead of Goldberg. He might actually be out ahead of Johan Nye. It's going to be a little bit closer. That is Johan in the background, and Todd is just getting up to speed. It's a shorter distance on the pit exit lane. And yeah, even with the pit stop, Todd didn't lose his lead.
That shows you the drive that Todd Goldberg has been able to put on up to this point, maintaining dominance in this race, getting those pit stops dealt with cleanly and efficiently. Now that he's on slightly cooler tires with that run down through pit lane, we'll have to be a little bit careful to hold on to that as Johan Nye probably looking to redeem himself after the mistakes that we saw a little bit earlier on. I don't think Nye would really try and apply some pressure to Todd Goldberg too much. He knows that he has to pick and choose his battles. But either way, Goldberg just putting on a stormer of a drive here tonight.
If De Silva wants this third place, he's going to have to play some defense. DiVincenzo coming back at him now and was very close coming into turn 4, but seems to have dropped off slightly out of that corner. It's back up to about a second between he and the green 24 machine. 7.5 minutes left to go. We are still owed a pit stop by Nye and Drankovic. So we're not done with seeing the cycle of those pit stops and figuring out exactly what the order is going to be. In fact, Johan Nye has gone around another lap.
Fascinating from Nye. I gotta wonder what sort of fuel saving he's been able to do. That or his team decides to pull off a smoky unit and just run the fuel line all over the car. I don't think iRacing is that far enough along in its simulation just yet, but Nye putting on a fantastic show of fuel saving strength, holding on to that P2 and staying out there on the racetrack for quite some time and keeping Todd Goldberg honest up at the front. That gap down to about 0.3 of a second between those two as that strike fits out and away. 7.2 seconds down to the pit stall. He hits that cone line and he's now back up to speed. We'll have to see if he is going to hold on to that P5 spot. I think he will, as there's a quite comfortable gap between himself and the 809 currently slotted in 6th. I think that works out to about 6 seconds as Drankovic rejoins the racetrack.
Todd's still ahead of Nye currently, so while this is a battle for position, Johan owes us a pit stop, and I highly doubt he's going to be able to get to the end. It's getting awful close. 6 minutes left to go in this thing. He has been sipping on that fuel. I'd be absolutely amazed if he manages to go all the way to the checkers. Let's see. This is going to be decisive here. And indeed, that is it. The end of the road for the 141. He has to pit in. And now we'll see where he cycles back out. De Silva. Will De Silva actually be behind him, or is Nye going to come back in P2 here?
That would be a darn good strategy call from Johan Nye if he can get P2 out of all this. We follow De Silva as he heads his way down off into the final corner right about now. Nye has hit his pit stall. He's going to be stopped there for another 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Actually, very quick. 6.6 seconds in the pits as he will probably lose out on P2. Yes, he will. He drops down to 3rd. But Johan Nye, either way, pretty darn good strategy call from him to be able to make that fuel work. It's got to be close between himself and DiVincenzo, though.
Yep, he did not come out ahead of De Silva. It is Antonio P2, which would be his best finish of the season so far. The 24 breaking the trend in a good way if he can hold it for 5 more minutes. Johan Nye potentially with a podium. I have to check. Has Johan been on the podium? Yes, he is. He was in second last race, actually.
I remember that very heart-pumping finish that Johan Nye was a part of. It took two to tango, and it was himself and Ed Trippett having that a very, very good battle, and very respectful battle. At the end, we heard from both of those drivers after the race, right before we wrapped up the broadcast and the post-race interviews. Both of them very respectful, very complimentary of each other's driving, as much as Ed Trippett had his fair share of falling anvils a little bit earlier on, currently slotted in P11, but a darn good drive from Johan Nye as he looks to hold on to his second podium in a row. So take a look at Les Carmichael. What could have been in this race? Runs wide off through turn number 1 and got to lose out on a spot. I am not sure. I think it wasn't overtook him there. I think that may have been the other 144 of Holland. Oh, and contact being made as he rejoined the track too.
Oh, you're right. There are a lot of what ifs, I think, for that 912 car. Some critical mistakes after it seemed to be starting so confidently for him, with a train of cars just being held off and nobody seemingly able to get by him. Back to Todd Goldberg. Let's see, about 3.5 minutes left to go. When we get to the line, that means it's probably going to be about 2 laps left, and we have our second penalty. You mentioned that contact on the way back in. Les Carmichael, cause of incident with the 116.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Joe. I can't even say that's rubbing salt into the wounds. That's basically like rubbing battery acid off into the wounds. A very unfortunate way for this race to go for Les Carmichael. Gotta look to try and dust himself off as we head off into the next round of the championship at Aragon next time out. That's going to be a venture off into the unknown. As much as we've had some wild races up to this point, Aragon going to be probably on the more confusing end of the races this season. That's a track that I think I've only broadcasted at once in my entire iRacing broadcasting career. Doesn't see a whole lot of use, but the entirety of the PCA got to be heading off there over the next couple of weeks.
And it's going to be in the wet too, so it's going to be, it's going to be an exciting one without a doubt. Who can hold it together? And it's a very high speed and technical circuit too. So, yeah, drivers will have their work cut out for them. As we now check in a little bit farther down. I think that was one of the drivers about in the mid pack. This is with Glaze, who, I can't figure out how he lost so much here in the pit stops. He's all the way down in 6th position now. He's about a second ahead of Doherty, but about 5 seconds behind Drankovic. That's a big gap.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out exactly.
Oh, well, it was a bit slow. 9.7.
Yeah.
Most of the drivers were doing 7 or 8, but that doesn't explain a loss of 5 seconds to Chris up ahead of him.
See, I'm trying to, I'm smashing my, 2 brain cells together, and the other one that ate grass, told me to eat grass as a kid, kind of is stopping me from doing this. I wonder if it's like Chief Mechanic has trypophobia or something like that. Not a fan of the polka dot paint scheme on that car, but either way, losing out on a boatload of time as him, as Antonio De Silva has lost out on second. I think he had a moment hang off through the corkscrew. Let's see.
Oh, no. The third places will continue. He loses at P2, like you said. Johan Nye just eases on through. He's about a second behind Johan. And it's a question mark as to whether we are on the final lap, because I was watching Goldberg. He crossed the start-finish line with about 1:27 to go, and they've been doing about 1:27 laps.
So this is going to be borderline as a meatball flag in the air for Lisa Eskridge. So things not going well at the very end of this race for her. She's going to be classed down in P19, I believe, at the very end of this. With 32 seconds left on the clock, though, Joe, it is going to be very, very close as to whether or not Goldberg takes the white or the checkered here. If he does take the white and we have one more lap of racing action, that is going to wreak havoc on some drivers' fuel stop calls. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. This is why you always put a lap in as a buffer just to play it safe. As he comes around the final turn, 10 seconds to go. Is this it, or is he going to get the white flag? It's going to be tight. He'll come to the line. And this is the final lap. He has crossed it with tenths of a second to spare. My goodness, he could have slowed down too. He's got 24 seconds back to Johan Nye.
Yeah, he probably could have stopped off and signed a couple of autographs as he headed his way off through the corkscrew, and he'd still be able to hold on to the race leads. Been an incredible drive from Todd Goldberg. All he needs to do is just bring it home. And him taking the white flag, though, I wonder who is now biting their fingernails off with the fuel strategy calls. Is anybody going to have to worry about running out here? If you run out with the amount of elevation change we have got here, probably not going to make it to that checkered flag, or at least it's going to be very, very close to see if you can. That white flag out. Goldberg only has a half a lap left to go to become the first driver from this season to convert a pole position into a win, and also be the first driver from this season to get multiple wins here in PCA.
In this class, at least, in challenge class, as we check back in with De Silva, trying his hardest to beat Johan Nye back to that P2. A mistake late in the race has cost him, and he's only got this one last lap to try and do it. Speaking of which, that lap goes by quickly. Todd Goldberg's coming up to the final turn already and is getting ready to take that checkered flag. The 99, the first repeat winner here in Series 14 for the challenge class.
And what a drive to get done from start to finish. Grabbed the race lead and never really looked back. Was able to come into the pits and exit out still with the race lead. As here we go, heading off into the final corner. De Silva really wants that P2.
But he's not going to get it. Oh, it was a failed attempt. Nye will rebuff him. A third place in a row for De Silva. Curious if he's sick of those or if he's feeling satisfied that he's been so consistent. DiVincenzo will get a fourth place in behind them. And as the rest of the cars head across the line, it looks like we will get 14 of them on the lead lap here at the finish. Keith Markison or Dave Jones going to be our last one. They're actually trading positions right now. And then Markison just went off. There we go as we join them now. Yeah, went way too deep down into the corkscrew. Dave will stay ahead of him after briefly giving away that position to the 076. Nice job by the 313 in that situation. And a bit of a close one ahead of them, too. It looks like, oh, no, excuse me, that was a lapped car ahead of Carmichael, so that was not for position between the pair of them. Now, the last of the cars have crossed the line. Todd Goldberg, your winner, with Johan Nye finishing at second. Antonio De Silva, Mr. P3 in Series 14. And Anthony DiVincenzo is going to be P4. Chris Strankovic in the fifth position. And then Robert Galaise, probably a bit of a disappointing sixth, considering the pace seemed to be there. John Kaplan was seventh, Thomas Doherty eighth, and Adam Holland was P9, with Ed Trippett only getting a 10th this time. Jonathan Sasportas was 11th, followed by Les Carmichaels, another driver that was hoping for more, and 12th. Dave Jones, 13th, and Keith Markison, last one on the lead lap, in 14th position. Patrick Aguirre initially gained a lot of spots, and in the end, he was only up 2, thanks to some mistakes. David Santry was 16th, Jack Stevenson 17th, and Ben Whitehurst in 18th. Unfortunately, I believe Lisa Eskridge was a DNF, along with Andrew McCune behind, out of our 20 starters here today. Let's talk to Todd Goldberg here and see what he thinks of this win, because it certainly looked solidly in his hands. Todd, we saw the gap in qualifying. We wondered if you could back it up in the race pace, and I take that as a huge yes, you can.
Yeah, it went quite well. I think it was mostly just a race against myself for the most part.
You know, we were kind of debating if you were going to, get that extra lap there at the end. Were you aware of how close it was to being one more lap to go? Because with that big of a gap, you could have actually slowed down.
I could have. I mean, there was one or two times I actually locked up. I was really just afraid of kind of just killing my own race versus someone else overtaking me for the most part. So I think I tended to drive a bit more conservative for about the back half of the race.
That's completely understandable. You're also 2 for 2. How many more races are we going to see for Series 14, and can you keep up this impressive record?
I hope so. I think I got one more in me for the season, which is older, and hopefully use that to bump up to the sport class after.
Well, we'll watch out for then. I'd say you got the speed to do so, and congratulations once again.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Todd Goldberg, P1 here today. And up next, I do believe Ron has caught up with third place, Johan Nye.
Yeah, and Johan now joining us here in the booth. Johan, welcome in. P3 for you at the end of this race. So a darn good drive all throughout. So how was it out there here tonight?
Was it P3 or P2?
P2, sorry. P2, my apologies.
Yeah. Hey, this is great. My second P2 in a row. My strategy is to make no mistakes. I had one spin, lost 2 places, but I was able to make them back on the pit stop, I think. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy. And congratulations to Todd and Antonio as well.
That was a darn good race for you. I want to ask you about the challenges of running here at Laguna Seca. Even though the track temperatures were a lot more tame compared to Indianapolis last time out, still had to be a bit of a challenging race tonight.
Yeah, Laguna Seca is challenging because it's really easy to do a spin or go off track. I think much easier than many other tracks. And so you really have to keep your focus if you don't want to make any mistakes.
And I will also ask you about the next round of the championship. Aragon venturing off into the unknown. Heard from Joe that's going to be a little bit wet next time out, and that track doesn't get a lot of use on iRacing. So do you have any thoughts heading off into the next round of the championship, or are you just about as blind, so to speak, heading off into this race as we are here in the booth?
Yeah, it's I've never been there. I haven't even started practicing on that track yet. The wet, though, I do fairly well in the wet because I have a pretty smooth driving style. So, but we'll see.
And maybe you can take one off of that P2 and make it a P1 next time out at Aragon. Hopefully I didn't just jinx you there. But Johan, thank you for joining us here in the booth. Congratulations on the P2, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Aragon next time out.
Thank you.
And that right there was Johan Nye, our P2 finisher, not our P3 finisher. Instead, Antonio De Silva was our P3 finisher, and he's with Joe.
Indeed, Antonio, you were maybe a mistake or two away from finishing somewhere other than P3. What are your feelings on this trend that you've developed? Not sure if we have Antonio with us. Antonio, you have a copy? Looks like you might be having some microphone problems here. We'll give him just a second, see if get this sorted out. We'd love to hear from him because, like I said, impressive consistency on those results, but could have been a P2. Antonio, we'll try one more time. Do you have a copy? Oh, there we go. Oh, yep, we got you. We felt like a win could be on the cards eventually. I guess if Todd Goldberg isn't there, especially more likely. How do you feel? Do you feel like you could maybe take P1 at some point?
Oh, definitely, yes. I thought I actually had P1 at Glen and also at Indy. I think those were easier tracks to race. Laguna Seca is complicated. I did well last year there. I actually had a win, but all along these 2 weeks of practice, a few times I actually went over the 25 limit of incidents. And today I was really careful with that. but I also slowed down quite a bit, and had a mistake with 2 laps to go, and I thought that I could take it easy. Apparently, I should be on it all the time. Don't just relax.
Well, you described Laguna Seca as complicated. How would you describe Aragon? Have you had a chance to race there yet?
Yes, I actually practice a little bit at Aragon. Aragon is even more difficult. The thing is that I'm going to have, this was my last race for the season. I have surgery next week on the shoulder, rotator cuff, and I think I'll be out of commission from here on. But yeah, I mean, I thought my 2 best chance for the P1 would be the Glen and Indy. From here on, that's it. I wish everybody else luck. You guys did so wonderful. You were so great on the podcast. Really lovely. Thank you to all.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and also we wish you the very best and a quick recovery from the surgery. Sad we won't get to see it, but again, we were very impressed with your podiums this season.
Thank you so much. Thank you again.
That was Antonio da Silva, P3, for the 3rd time in a row. As we will wrap things up by mentioning that we'll be back at Motorland Aragon in 2 weeks' time with the challenge class. That'll be on November 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. But we're going to be there for a while regardless, because next Wednesday night on October 29th, the Pro Class will kick off the 2 weeks over at the Spanish circuit. A big thank you, of course, goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Ron. But thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.